Hi, my name is Dan from Deliciously Guilt Free, and I've made this video to answer some of the most frequently asked questions that we get. Now, it might be the case you want more information, or perhaps this video doesn't answer the question that you have, and that's fine. Just email me hello@deliciouslyguiltfree.com and I'll get back to you. If it turns out there's a question that many of you have that hasn't been addressed in this video, I may make a video for that as well, because I think transparency is so important. The more I can explain to you what's in our chocolate, how it's made, if it's okay for your macros, if it's okay if you've got diabetes to have it, etc., the better. Then you can make an informed choice. And equally, there might be this chocolate is not right for you, and I think it's important to address the issues, the questions that you might have. So let's crack into the first one. One of the questions we get asked all the time is, why does your chocolate cost what it does? Well, let me break it down. This is the Criollo cacao bean. We use this to make our chocolate. It is sustainable, it's ethically farmed, and it comes from small cooperatives who get paid a fair rate for the cacao that they make. Now, this we then make into nibs. The nibs themselves go into making the chocolate. So this firstly is very expensive. We then sweeten with sweeteners. Now, sweeteners, of course, are much more expensive than sugar, but of course they won't spike your blood sugars. This is a much healthier response to your body because you're not going to have that insulin spike and sugar rushes, etc. And then finally, instead of just using, for instance, milk powder, we use whey and cream powder. So whey powder is higher in protein, cream powder higher in cream, which is obviously fat, but they're lower in lactose. Both of those cost much more than just milk powder. We then make it in small batches, all by hand with my small team, meaning we guarantee the quality that you're getting. So this is a handmade, low carbohydrate, ethical, sustainable product made in small batches, and that is why the cost is what it is. How many carbs are in your chocolate? This is a great question, and I'm going to use one of our chocolate bars to explain. So we have to, by law, declare the total number of carbs. That's including any carbohydrate in the milk, the cream, the whey powder, any carbohydrate in our sweeteners, we declare the whole thing. But the sweeteners we use don't spike blood sugar because polyols, this is the reason we chose this sweetener, in fact will taste like sugar, but it won't actually spike your blood sugar. So for that reason, we'd say the total carbs on this bar is 20.3. But when you take the sweetener off, which doesn't affect your blood sugar, it's actually 10.3 grams. Now we declare both, so you can decide what's best for you. If you're, for instance, diabetic, that's really important. We're transparent on this information. And so you know, take off the sweeteners, it's only 10.4 grams of carbohydrate. If you want to have the total carbs, including those that don't affect your body, then it's 20.3. So now you know. Is your chocolate completely sugar-free? Well, great question. Let me explain. When making chocolate, you put sugar into the recipe. Well, we don't. We instead use sweetener, which means you don't add any sugar whatsoever. Doesn't mean, however, there's no sugar in it at all, and that's because we use this, which is milk powder. Now, milk powder, of course, has lactose in it, just like a glass of milk would. And to try and combat that, I've actually used cream and whey powder to bring down the amount of lactose in the chocolate. However, you can't completely eradicate milk powder from the chocolate bar, so for that reason, there's a little bit of sugar, but it's very, very minimal. What's the difference between net carbs and non-polyol sweetener carbs? Great question. It causes a lot of confusion here in the UK because we are different to America, which is where they use net carbs. So technically, we're not supposed to use net carbs in the country here. Let me explain though what they are. So net carbs in America means you take off the fiber and the sweeteners to get your number as to what the net carbs are. In the UK, we take the fiber number off the declaration anyway because it doesn't affect your blood sugar. But it turns out in the UK we do have to declare the sweetener still, even though this also doesn't affect your blood sugar. So what that means is when you get a chocolate bar from us, it will tell you the total number of carbs. And what that means is the sweeteners included. In this bar, for instance, that would be 20.3 grams of total carbs. Take off the sweetener and it will give you instead 10.3 grams of carbs, because in fact there's 10 grams of this sweetener inside this bar. So you call that the non-polyol sweetener carbs, because I'm literally taking that off that number so you know what's going to impact your blood sugar. Now we do both to be transparent, to make sure you understand, but it can be complicated sometimes to get what that means exactly for you. This is a great question. What are some of the alternatives to our chocolate out there on the market? Well, there are other sugar-free chocolate bars, there are no added sugar chocolate bars, etc., and health bars, but just read the labels carefully and let me explain the differences so you can make an informed decision. Now, many of the sugar-free brands use a sweetener called maltitol. Maltitol actually does have a spike on your blood sugar still. It's about half as much as sugar would, but it still does impact your blood sugar. So if you're doing keto or low carb, it would knock you out of ketosis, or it would, for instance, like maybe spike your insulin levels as you're responding to the maltitol, which is pretty much the same as eating sugar, which I think is ridiculous. Just because it says sugar-free or no added sugar doesn't mean it's necessarily not going to have a similar impact as sugar would. We, on the other hand, are using cleaner sweeteners that won't spike your blood sugars, so you can eat them knowing what you're eating is actually going to keep you in ketosis or to a very low level of blood sugar rise, so you can manage your macros yourself. If I order, how long does it take for my order to get to me? Brilliant question. So we have a turnaround time of 3 to 5 working days. Most of the time we are well ahead of that. Sometimes, however, as we get bigger and we have more and more orders, it's going crazy at the moment, for instance, we can slip a little bit behind that. So just message me, hello@deliciouslyguiltfree.com, if you think your order is slightly longer than 3 to 5 working days. The reason it's that long is because literally everything is handmade and made fresh. Most chocolate on the shelves is made about a year before you buy it, whereas this stuff that we're working with, this cacao goes from being raw and fresh, ground down into a bar, and with you within about 2 or 3 days of it being made. So for that reason, it's a much fresher product. The postage service we use is TrackPost, so you will actually get a reference number with an email saying where your delivery is at all times, so you can track it through the postal system, and it is generally between 48 to 24 hours after we post it to you. Is your chocolate suitable for diabetics? Now, this is a question we get asked often, and actually you might not know, but my wife had pregnancy diabetes, and that's how I started this journey, because I wanted to find products that she could eat and still manage her blood sugar levels, and that's why I started baking cakes and now making chocolate, so that she could have that without knowing she's going to get sugar spikes. So yes, the answer is it is perfect for diabetics. Many of our customers have type 2 diabetes, and they don't want to miss out on eating lovely, delicious chocolate. Yes, they might cut back on those things, and that's fair enough. Probably we all should. But sometimes you just want to have a piece of chocolate. You want to just sit back on the sofa, let it melt in your mouth, and know that your blood sugars aren't going to go crazy or berserk. So yes, like most of our customers, they're very happy with their diabetes, and they also share with us often their sugar readings. They can tell us what the sugar reading is after eating our chocolate, and there's very minimal rise to no rise at all. So it's great for diabetics. This is a good question. Can you buy our chocolate in shops? Not at the moment. Now, that is something that we want to expand into, but at the moment it's just hard enough trying to make enough chocolate for all of these amazing orders coming in, so we're still selling directly to you, our customer. However, that doesn't mean we're not going to in the future. So if you know of a cafe, if you know of a farm shop or a local health store near you who'd be interested in supplying Keto Craft chocolate, then just get in touch. hello@deliciouslyguiltfree.com. We'd be more than happy to send out chocolate samples to people, but also hopefully stock the shop near you so that you can get our chocolate much more quickly and more conveniently. Is your chocolate suitable for the keto diet and for low carb diets? Yes, it is. Now, let me explain why. We declare the total carbohydrates so you know where you stand. You've got full transparency on all the numbers. We also give you the minus the polyol sweetener carbs as well, which is the ones that won't affect your blood sugar. So you know how many, as somebody will call it, net or non-polyol carbs you're eating a day, but it's perfect to keep you in ketosis, or if you just want to cut your carbs, this is a great alternative to normal chocolate. Which sweeteners do you use in your chocolate? Well, we use 3. Firstly, erythritol. Erythritol is a great sweetener because it has minimal to no impact on your blood sugar, meaning that you can have lots of this without it spiking your blood sugar. However, we also use inulin, and that's because I want to make sure together we get more of a taste of sugar. I don't want a health product to taste like a health product. It's got to taste like the real thing. And so for that reason, I use inulin, which is actually a fiber, not technically a sweetener. And the two together plus a bit of stevia from leaves means you get the taste of sugar without the nasty blood sugar spikes and insulin release that comes after.
Watch you walking in the room.